Hello students. So today now we will see about the stomach. So in the previous class we have seen about the esophagus, the different regions of the esophagus and what are the different uh, uh, processes of the esophagus, how the food is transported from the mouth into the esophagus. We have seen about the different regions of the pharynx, oropharynx, nasopharynx, and the laryngopharynx, and how the process of mechanical transportation of the food is taking place from the mouth into the stomach through the esophagus. Today we will see about the stomach and the different regions of the stomach and the functions of the stomach. So before going into the stomach, okay, we will see what are the different regions and quadrants of the abdominal pelvic cavity. So this is very very important. Everybody have to know about the different quadrants of the abdominal pelvic region. So the doctors or the clinicians and the other people, no anatomists, they will mention or they will designate different names to different regions of the body. So there are 9 regions. Okay, there is in some cases, no one study they have given around 9 regions for the different parts of the body. So they have described the regions. So there are some lines, vertical lines, and the horizontal lines. So you can see from the picture there are two vertical lines. One is the subcostal line and the transtubercular line. So these are the two lines which divides the body into 3 regions, 3 central regions. The upper region is called as the epigastric region, the middle region is called as the umbilical region, and the lower region is called as the hypogastric or the pubic region. These are the 3 regions, okay, divided by the horizontal line, subcostal line and the transtubercular line. Then you have the vertical lines. So you can see the clavicles or the shoulder bones, clavicles here, and the two lines are running from top to bottom, vertical lines, that is called as the mid clavicular lines, the right and the left mid clavicular lines. So this again divides the body vertically into the epigastric region. You have the right and left side of the epigastric region called as the hypochondriac region, right and left hypochondriac region, and the central region is divided into lumbar region, right and left lumbar region, and the lower region is divided into inguinal region or the iliac region, right and left iliac region. So totally you have 9 regions or 9 quadrants. Okay, the body is divided into 9 quadrants. So this is one kind of study, and in another study, this is the 9 quadrants. In another study, the body is totally divided into 4 quadrants: the right upper quadrant, left upper quadrant, right lower quadrant, and the left lower quadrant. RLQ, LLQ, LUQ, and RUQ. So you can see the placement of the different organs in the different regions of the body, and you can see this where the stomach is placed, where the liver is placed, where the heart is placed. Okay, and the hypogastric region contains the reproductive system, and you can see the digestive system is completely extending from top to bottom. So the various regions of the digestive system, the stomach is lying here, the liver is here, the small intestine and the large intestine. You can see how it extends and protrudes, and you can easily mention, the doctors can easily mention the different quadrants of the body so that they can explain the place of pain or tumor or whatever it is. No, the anatomical portions can be explained clearly by mentioning the different regions of the body. So you have to understand, when you're talking about the digestive system, how the different regions of the digestive system are placed in the different quadrants. So that is very very important. Now we will come back to the stomach. Okay, so what is the stomach and how, what are the different regions of the stomach, and we will see what are the functions of the stomach. So stomach, as you can see, is a elastic organ. It is a J-shaped organ, elastic organ, which are directly coming after the esophagus. So after the esophagus, it opens into the stomach. So the lower esophageal sphincter or the valve opens the contents, okay, opens the food or transports the food from the esophagus into the stomach. So it is, you can see the shape of the thing. It is a J-shaped muscular organ. It is very elastic in nature, and it is present just below the diaphragm. Okay, it is present just below the diaphragm. Okay, so the next region of the stomach is the duodenum. So the stomach connects to the duodenum, that is the first part of the small intestine. Okay, so what is the function of the stomach? The stomach acts as a reservoir where it stores the food immediately after ingestion. After consuming the food is slowly eaten little by little, and it is not immediately absorbed. Okay, it is not immediately digested and absorbed by the digestive system, but instead of that, the food stays in the stomach for some period of time. For example, 1 to 2 hours. Okay, slowly the digestion is completed by the end of 4 hours. Okay, so in this place, in this region, the stomach is acting as the holding reservoir or storage organ. Okay, where the digestion can slowly start, and it can push the food into the next region of the digestive system, that is the duodenum. So this is a region where the mixing of the food subs, because this is a larger region. Okay, you can see more than any of the region. All the other regions are tubular in nature, whereas this is a region, bag like region. So when the stomach, when it is not full, no, it is very small in structure, that is the shape of a small sausage. Okay, but when it is filled with the food, it will extend and expand. Because of the elastic nature of the stomach, it will expand, and it can hold a large quantity of food. Okay, so this is a region where the maximum mixing of the food takes place. So the mechanical digestion, so all the other regions, the mechanical digestion involves only the transportation of the food from one region to another, but only in the stomach, the mechanical digestion will begin like a wave like motion, where the food is thrown to and fro, up and down. Okay, to and fro, starting from the fundus to the pylorus. It is just churning or mixing. Okay, a wave, like, just like a waves of the sea. It comes and goes, hits the walls, inner walls of the stomach, just mixes and converts them into a liquid form. Okay, apart from that, the stomach secretes around 2 to 3 liters of gastric juice. So the food mixes, the solid food mixes with the gastric juice, say around 2 to 3 liters of the juice, and completely converts the food into a liquid form. So the liquid form of the food is called as the chyme. Okay, the liquid form of the food is called as the chyme. So here, this is the mechanical digestion aids in the complete breakdown of the physical parts of the food into smaller ones, and also the chemical digestion, which is acted upon by the HCl, and the pepsin will act upon the proteins and convert them into smaller peptides. Okay, now let us see the anatomy of the stomach. The stomach is divided into four regions. The initial region is called as the cardia. You can see the lower esophageal sphincter opens into the first region of the stomach called as the cardia. So the next region is called as the fundus. See, the fundus is a funnel-like region which opens into the major region of the stomach. Okay, so fundus is the funnel-like region which opens into the next region, which is called as the body. So the body is the major part of the stomach. Body is the major part of the stomach which holds the food, acts as a storage or a reservoir for a long period of time until the digestion is complete in the stomach, and slowly the food is passed into the emptying of the stomach is happening. Okay, the next region is called as the pylorus. So the pylorus, you can see, it is having many parts. The anterior part of the pylorus is called as the pyloric antrum. Then it narrows down to form a canal-like structure called as the pyloric canal, and then it opens into the next region called as the duodenum, the pylorus. Okay, it opens into the duodenum. So this is guarded by a sphincter called as the pyloric sphincter. Okay, pyloric sphincter. So the pyloric sphincter opens slowly. Okay, just like a wave like motion, or you can see at regular intervals of time. So at each opening of the pyloric sphincter, around 3 ml of the chyme flows into the duodenum. So how this is happening is, as I told you, the muscles present in the stomach, there are three kinds of muscles. That is longitudinal muscle, circular muscle, and the oblique muscles. So these muscles help in the peristaltic movement as well as the wave-like motion of the stomach, so that it throws the food up and down, okay, from the pylorus to the fundus. So how does the stimulation of the mechanical digestion begins is when the food enters the stomach in the fundus region itself, the muscles are activated and they're stimulated to move, okay, to move. That is both the circular as well as the peristaltic movement begins. So this movement only mixes or churns the food, okay, so that it converts the solid food into the liquid food. So this is the different regions of the stomach. You can see the inner region, of the lumen, that is where it faces the lumen. It has a large number of foldings. You can see in this picture also, this is the inner region. This is the histological picture of the stomach. So you can see the inner foldings of the stomach, no, it is called as the rugae of the mucosa. So this inner folding can expand. That is it gives the elastic nature of the stomach. Okay, it can expand and you know it will hold it at the reservoir capacity of the stomach is because of the rugae. So the large number of inner finger like foldings. Okay, so which gives the elastic nature of the stomach. So what are the functions of the stomach? It mixes the saliva, food and gastric juice to form chyme. Okay, it forms a liquid food called as chyme. It serves as a reservoir for food before releasing into the duodenal region. Then it also secretes gastric juice which contains HCl. The HCl act upon the bacteria and kill the bacteria, and also it will act upon the proteins and denatures them. It also secretes pepsin. Okay, pepsin is an enzyme which will be secreted by the cells, gastric glands. Okay, which will act upon the proteins and convert the proteins into smaller peptides. It also secretes intrinsic factor which will help in the absorption of vitamin B12 and also in the erythropoiesis. Okay, and also it secretes gastric lipase. So gastric lipase acts upon the fats, triglycerides, and convert them uh, glycerol and disaccharides and monosaccharides. Then it also secretes gastrin. Okay, gastrin is a hormone which will stimulate the secretion of HCl and the pepsin. So these are the structures, anatomical structure of the stomach. Next, we will see the histology of the stomach. Okay, histology of the stomach. Just like all the other regions of the digestive system, the stomach also has four main regions. So what are the four main regions of the stomach? It is the mucosa, the submucosa, muscularis, and the serosa. So mucosa is again divided into, you all know, simple columnar cells, epithelial cells, lamina propria, and the muscularis. Okay, muscularis. You can see the difference here is the lamina propria is extended, is very long, elongated structure which goes into the next region, which goes into the next submucosal region. So the submucosal region is made up of blood vessels, lymphatic systems, and the connective tissues. Okay, so it extends and it forms the cells present in the mucosa. There are several different kinds of cells are present in the mucosa which secretes different kind of uh, juices. Okay, different kinds of juices and different kind of secretions. So the cells are arranged like this, and these are the gastric glands. So the gastric glands contain different type of cells which you can see as a differently colored. So they go into the, see, it is not like the other cells. Okay, it is not short, it is a long elongated one and goes into the next region, lamina propria, and even the submucosa. So the cells, no, the secretions of the gastric glands or the gastric cells are flowing into the lumen through a pit-like structure called as the gastric pit. So these are the narrow structures, narrow openings into the lumen. So the gastric secretions are opening into the lumen through the gastric pit. So this is the mucosal region. Next comes the submucosa, which you all know it is made up of connective tissues, blood vessels, lymphatic vessels, etc. Next, you have the muscularis. So the muscularis layer is also different from the other layers, where it has the other layers has only got two kind of muscles, the circular muscle and the longitudinal muscle. But here it has got three layers of muscles. Okay, the oblique layer followed by the circular layer and followed by the longitudinal layer. So this is very important for the churning action of the stomach. You can see the myenteric plexus here. Okay, next comes the serosa. So serosa is no, it is also composed of a squamous epithelial cells and the connective tissue cells. So this serosa is the covering of the stomach, and it is also a part of the visceral peritoneum. So it is a part of the visceral peritoneum, which is the total covering of the organ stomach. Okay, now we will see the different cells of the gastric gland. So this is the gastric gland. There are different kinds of cells here. It is made up of simple columnar epithelial cells, lamina propria, and the gastric glands, those are muscularis mucosae, and the submucosa. So what are the different types of cells? So number one, it is the surface mucous cells. Number one is the surface mucous cells. So what does it do? Surface mucous cells secretes mucus. Then number two is the mucous neck cells. So the neck cells also secretes the mucus. So these two cells secrete mucus. You can see the difference in the color. The surface mucous cells are pink in color, and this is somewhat light brown in color, mucous neck cells. The third cell is called as the more brown in color, called as the parietal cells. So what is the role of the parietal cells? The parietal cells will secrete HCl and intrinsic factor. HCl and intrinsic factor. The next cell is, you can see, the violet colored cells. These are called as the chief cells. They secrete pepsinogen and gastric lipase. These are the two enzymes secreted by the gastric gland, by the cell called as the chief cell. So the chief cell secretes pepsinogen and gastric lipase. Next, you can see the blue colored cells, which is called as the G cell. So what is the role of the G cell? The G cell secretes the hormone gastrin. Okay, the hormone gastrin. So these are different types of cells that secrete the different mucus, HCl, pepsinogen, gastric lipase, and gastrin. So what are they? Surface mucous cells and the mucous neck cells secrete mucus. Okay, mucus is the lubricating fluid which is secreted in order to cover the food as well as the internal parts of the stomach. The third cell is the parietal cells. Parietal cells secrete HCl and the intrinsic factor. The next cell is the chief cell. They secrete the pepsinogen and the gastric lipase. The fifth type of cell is called the G cell. They secrete the hormone gastrin. So this picture shows the histology of the stomach different. You see how the finger-like projections, okay, of the epithelial cells of the gastric glands, and where the glands, the cells are present, glands are situated, and how they are opening into the lumen with the through the gastric pit. Okay. Now we will see how the HCl is secreted. So what are the different kinds of secretion? Mucus, HCl, pepsinogen, gastric lipase, and the hormone gastrin. Now the very important secretion of the stomach is the HCl. So HCl only converts the pH acidity, that is the pH of the stomach, is controlled by the secretion of the HCl. So HCl is secreted by the parietal cells. So this is the parietal cells. You can see they are present in between the other cells. So the attachment of the parietal cell with the other cell is called as the basolateral membrane, and these are the cells which are protruding into the lumen called as the apical membrane. So this HCl is secreted through the apical membrane. So how the HCl secretion is happening? Okay, so you can see from the picture there are different types of pumps present. Okay, you can see the proton pump, which is called as the H plus K plus ATPase. Okay, proton pump which is present here. This is the H plus K plus ATPase. So H plus is secreted from the cell into the lumen, and K plus is secreted from the lumen into the cells. Exchange. Okay, H plus is exchanged for K plus. So this is by the help of the proton pump. Okay, proton means H plus. Okay, that is, it is otherwise called as the H plus K plus ATPase. Apart from this, you have other channels, okay, which will allow the flow of only potassium. Here you can see potassium flows from the cell into the lumen. Another thing, you have the chloride channel. Okay, this is a violet colored, this is black in color. Okay, this will allow the flow of the chloride from the cell into the lumen. Okay, so apart from this, you have an antiporter. Antiporter which will allow the bicarbonate to go outside and chloride to come inside. So these are the different kinds of, you know, uh, transporters. Okay, some are antiporters, some are symporter. Okay, some are just channels which allow the flow of some either potassium or chloride. And this, this shows that it dotted lines diffusion. Now, how the HCl is formed? Okay, the water and the carbon dioxide present in the cell will combine together to form carbonic acid in the presence of the enzyme carbonic anhydrase. So, once carbonic anhydrase is formed and carbonic acid is formed, it will be split up into H plus and HCO3 minus. This H plus is contributed for the proton pump. Okay, this proton has to come outside into the lumen. So actually, the parietal cells do not secrete HCl in the form of HCl itself. It secretes the H plus and the Cl minus separately, and then when it comes into the lumen, they combine together to form the HCl. Okay, this is what is happening. So this transport is aided by the help of ATP. ATP is split into ADP. So that energy is utilized for the transport of H plus and K plus. Now this bicarbonate, what does it do? It will come outside. So by the antiporter, bicarbonate is exchanged for a chloride. So bicarbonate goes outside into the interstitial fluid, and the chloride from the interstitial fluid flows into the cell through this antiporter. Now this bicarbonate will enter into the bloodstream and then goes into the kidney, okay, where it contributes the major alkalinity to the urine. Okay, so this is happening in the basolateral membrane. Now this chloride, okay, which enters the parietal cells through another channel, it is flowing into the lumen. Now this H plus and this Cl minus combine together to form HCl in the lumen. Okay. Now this HCl is very very important. What does it do? What is the function of the HCl? It is the main contributor of the acidic pH of the stomach. So the pH of the stomach is 2. So that is because of the large contribution of the HCl, large flow of the HCl into the lumen. Okay, this will make the food completely acidic. So in this acidic environment, the bacteria will be killed. Bacteria which is present along with the food substances will be killed, and it will act upon the protein part of the food. So it will convert the protein into smaller units. Okay, that is smaller parts. It denatures the protein. So when denatures the protein, unwinds and exposes its the amino acids for the action of the pepsin. Okay, what is the next function is this HCl will act upon the pepsinogen. Pepsinogen is the inactive form of the pepsin. So pepsin is not secreted in the directly in the active form. It is secreted only in the inactive form, pepsinogen. Now this HCl will act upon the pepsinogen and it will convert the pepsinogen into pepsin. Okay, now when a little amount of pepsin is formed, it will further act upon the itself, that is autocatalysis. So this little pepsin which is formed will act upon the other pepsinogen and convert the pepsinogen into pepsin. Okay, this is the function of the HCl. So this contributes to the acidic pH. So the pepsin can be active only in the presence of HCl. So that is the acidic pH. When the pH increases to alkalinity, the pepsin will not function. So the pepsin will be active only in the stomach in the presence of the acidic pH contributed by the HCl. Okay, so this is how the HCl is secreted. So HCl is also secreted and controlled by the other things as you can see in the picture. So this is the parietal cells, this is the basolateral membrane, and this is the apical membrane, and how the secretion of H plus and Cl plus contributes to the formation of HCl in the lumen. This we have seen in the previous slide. Now what is the control, regulation of the HCl? Okay, the acetylcholine secreted by the parasympathetic neurons. Okay, see this acetylcholine which is secreted by the parasympathetic neurons combines with the acetylcholine receptor present on the parietal cell. Okay, so this will stimulate the parietal cells to secrete HCl. So not only this, okay, gastrin, the hormone gastrin secreted by the G cell also comes and binds to the gastrin receptor. So this also stimulates the parietal cells to secrete HCl. Okay, not only this, the combined action of the histamine and the gastrin will stimulate the parietal cells to secrete HCl. So what does it do? The histamine, you would have heard about this histamine in the inflammatory function, but here the role of the histamine is to stimulate the secretion of HCl by the parietal cells. Okay, there is another receptor called as the histamine receptor. The histamine binds with the histamine receptor, and this histamine along with the gastrin and acetylcholine will stimulate the parietal cell to secrete HCl. So this is the regulation or control or the stimulation of the HCl. Okay. Now let us summarize. Okay, summarize the digestive activities in the stomach. Okay, so what are the cells, different cells of the stomach? Chief cells, parietal cells, mucous cells, mucus secreting cells, G cells, okay, muscularis, and this pyloric sphincter. So what are the different functions? The chief cells secrete pepsinogen. So, what is the role of the pepsinogen? It will act upon the pepsin and it will convert the protein into the peptides, smaller peptides. Okay. It will also secrete the gastric lipase. So, gastric lipase will act upon the fats, triglycerides, and convert them into glycerol and fatty acids. That is monoglyceride, diglyceride, and fatty acids. Next is the parietal cells. What do they do? The parietal cells secrete HCl and the intrinsic factor. So, what is the role of the HCl? It will kill the microorganisms present in the food, and also it will activate the convert the pepsinogen into pepsin and denature the proteins. What is the role of the intrinsic factor? It is very much essential for the absorption of vitamin B12, and also it is a very important factor for the erythropoiesis, formation of RBC. Now both the surface mucous cells and the mucous neck cells will secrete mucus. Okay, what does it do? Mucus is the the lubricating fluid or lubricating substance which will act as a protective barrier for the stomach. Okay, and it will prevent the digestion of the stomach wall by the HCl. Now, does any absorption take place in the stomach? Yes, small quantity of water, okay, ions, short chain fatty acids, and some drugs enter the bloodstream. So the stomach does not have any major absorptive function. That means it does not have absorptive function of carbohydrates and proteins. So carbohydrates and proteins are not absorbed by the stomach, but it has a minor absorptive function where some amount of water is absorbed, some ions are absorbed, some short chain fatty acids are absorbed, so alcohol, okay, alcohol is immediately absorbed and it will enter the bloodstream immediately, and also some drugs are also absorbed. Next is the G cells. Okay, G cells secrete gastrin. So what is the function of the gastrin? So gastrin, it binds to the gastrin receptor and stimulates the parietal cells to secrete HCl, and also the chief cells to secrete pepsinogen. It stimulates both the cells, parietal cells and the chief cells to secrete HCl and the pepsinogen. And also it has the control over the mechanical function. It contracts the lower esophageal sphincter and it opens the sphincter to release the contents into the duodenum. Increases the motility of the stomach, mixing, churning action, converting the food into the fluid liquid form, releases the pyloric sphincter. Next is the muscularis. So muscularis, we have seen there are three kinds of muscles: longitudinal, circular, and the oblique. Okay, they help in the mixing function of the stomach. Okay, so macerate the food and mix it with the gastric juice, forming the chyme. It also has peristaltic function where it forces the chyme through the pyloric sphincter, pushes the food into the next region, duodenal region. The last one is the pyloric sphincter. What is the pyloric? It is a valve or a opening, okay, guard, opens to permit passage of the chyme into the duodenum. So what does it do? It regulates the passage of chyme from the stomach to the duodenum and also prevents the backflow of chyme from the duodenum to stomach. That is very important. Once the food enters the duodenum, it should not come back. So that is done by the guarding of the pyloric sphincter. Okay, so the entry of the food back into the stomach is called as regurgitation. Okay, you would have everybody would have experienced some kind of regurgitation. That is the bile entering into the stomach and or pulip kind of taste will come in the mouth. Okay, sometimes no regurgitation it happens during vomiting. vomiting the food, all the food which is entered the duodenum also comes out. Okay, sometimes due to some discomfort in the stomach, or due to some malformation or some blockage, or stone formation in the gallbladder, or some other condition, the food can come out. Okay, from the low, once the food goes from the mouth then into the esophagus, it is directly to enter the stomach and the duodenum. It should not come back. But when it comes back, then it is called as the regurgitation. Sometimes when the pyloric sphincter is not functioning properly, it will come back. Okay, sometimes the other forces of the regions of the digestive system will also pushes the food upwards. This is called as regurgitation. Okay, so these are the different functions of the stomach. Okay, next we will see the other regions in the next class. Thank you.